So without further ado, please join me as we welcome our community leader, Carlos Granda, as he presents Angeles Investors Level Up Series, The Next Frontier of AI and How It's Revolutionizing Industries.
Thank you. All right. Well, good morning, everyone, again. My name is Carlos Granda. I've been a member of Angeles since August of last year when I first met David. So it's going to be almost a year. And so I'm excited. I think when David and I first met and we talked about sort of the mission of Angeles and what we were trying to accomplish, I sort of jumped at the opportunity to contribute and help. So today we're going to talk about AI and sort of revolutionizing and how is it impacting industries. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert on it, but I'm sure all of you have heard plenty of presentations around AI. But I'm going to talk specifically about a couple of things that are important to me and the things that I am doing today as I help different organizations. So I found this sort of cartoon somewhat funny because one of the private equity firms that I work with, and one of the portfolio companies that I work with as part of the private equity firms, I work closely with their CEO. Their CEO is the company's about $600 million, and he attended a PE firm's offsite. And so he came home, and after receiving plenty of sessions, obviously the PE firm put an AI session out there for him. He came home, sent the slide deck of this Harvard professor who presented around AI, the impact, the risk, the opportunities, the challenges of AI, as well as the optimization things that AI can do for us. So he sent it to his leadership team, copied me on it, and told his team, you guys have 90 days to go figure out how AI is going to save us 20% on each one of the functions. So as you can imagine, the team was panicking. They had no idea how to get started. So I found this somewhat trivial because companies out there are hearing all about AI. There's plenty of information out there, right? But it's like, how do you actually make it real? It's what's really the challenge. So I'm going to share with you a specific use case, which I feel like is the secret disruptor that I think we're all ignoring it. And so I'm going to share that with you. But you probably ask yourselves, why is this old guy talking about AI? AI is old new stuff. So why should we have like a 22-year-old out here that is, coding in Python and trying to figure it out? Well, let me just give you a little sense, especially for us who are old out there. We've been using AI since the early 2000s. Now, back then, there wasn't one single solution around AI. It was actually an integration of products and technologies, and whether we use chatbots or we use suggested answers that our contact center or call center would do, that was what's called AI. And so it's not something that is new. It's something that has been around. But the reason that it's taken such great mainstream for our world today is because of three reasons. One, data. Now we have access to data. We can see it everywhere. And so the amount of data accessible for people is crucial. Computing power. Think about trying to do AI calculations on a dial-up connection. So now we have companies like Google and Microsoft and Amazon who are spending billions of dollars in computing power so we can use those calculations. And the third thing is we're looking at personalization. So customers want a personalized experience. So those are the three issues that have really made AI, and obviously innovation and really smart young people coming up. But that's what's made AI critical to us today. But I'll tell you a little bit about me because this is where I believe, at least I have an opinion. I may not be right, but at least I have an opinion around what AI is doing and the impact that it's having. So I spent time with SAP, Google Cloud, and Salesforce. I was the chief customer officer at Google Cloud. And every time that we did something at Google Cloud, it always had to have a $1 billion answer. So even if I came with an idea to Sundar or to anybody in the executive team, I had to answer, can this be the next $1 billion opportunity at Google? That's where AI is coming. So I do customer success. I do a bunch of things around go-to-market. I advise private equity firms. I'm not going to call it retire because my wife would throw a shoe at me because I'm not really retired. I'm still working 60 hours a week. But I work with Bain. I'm not an employee of Bain, but I work with Bain Consulting, advising private equity firms in due diligence, merger and acquisitions, and post-sales. I work with Alban, proud to be part of Angeles. I have a soccer nonprofit, which is the funnest part of my job, which is what I want to retire on. But the fun part of it is that I'm actually advising a company that is using AI for soccer. I can't tell you what it is, but it's coming. And we're working together with the U.S. Soccer and U.S. Soccer Foundation around some of the stuff. So pretty exciting stuff on how AI is impacting sort of the world. And I couldn't find a better time. I think David planned it perfectly this week for me to talk about AI with all the great announcements that happened this week. So I'm not going to tell you or even pretend to understand all the things that we're doing, but it was pretty exciting. Pretty exciting because the impact of AI is having it in all industries. My son graduated from college last year. He's working for a software company. He works in the HR side of things. He got a major in psychology with a minor in business. He wants to be an HR business partner. He wants to do organizational transformation. And the first project he's working on right now is around AI, onboarding the entire organization. And so he has to come up and put together an entire RFP around a solution they're going to go build leveraging an AI. My youngest son is a sophomore in college. He's taking classes. He's built his first Python project as a sophomore. That now there's 2 software companies that want to basically buy the thing that he built. And he says, I don't need to go to college. I can just sell this and go work for this company. I slapped him around a little bit and told him that's not how it works. But AI is impacting. So I'm super excited for the opportunity that I think my children, my boys, are going to have as we go into the future. This slide was put together by a PE firm. It's crazy. I don't know if you can even read the logos. This was put together about 4 weeks ago. Even after 4 weeks ago, there's over 50 new AI companies that have started, asking for money, raising money, or being bought by other companies. It's almost like the new .com days with all these AI companies. So the world's changing, and I'm not going to pretend that these are the only 8 use cases that companies use out there. This is only 8 of hundreds of them out there, and they keep coming over and over and over again. And the thing about it is that as investors or founders or a JP Morgan Chase of a Bank of America, it's impacting every single industry. You can be a restaurant, and it's impacting your business. And I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you how. So I'm going to talk about one specific use case, because this is the one that I call it the silent disruptor. No one's noticing it. No one's paying attention to it, because everybody's been using it for a while. You've already been using search. This is a popularity contest. Who uses Google to search? Raise your hand. Okay? You've been using AI in Google for the last maybe 10, 15 years, but it has evolved. And with the latest announcement, and they've been piloting for about 2, 3 years, you're going to see a dramatic and a drastic change to organizations around how they do marketing. And nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. So you think about the olden days, right? This is the olden days, like 3 years ago. If you think about the olden days, you would do a search, right? So my wife and I are planning a trip to Hawaii. She and I said, we're going to divide and conquer. She's going to plan the volcano bicycle trip, and my job is to plan the snorkeling trip. So I went on Google. I typed in snorkeling trip. I don't know where to go. I don't remember which one we went to 10 years ago. Came up. How many people in the family are going? How many adults? What fish do you want to see? How much you want to pay? What days are you available? Do you want morning, afternoon? Kind of walk me through the whole guidance of the buying. Before, you would get 10 links. And I will click on all the links, gather information, go to Yelp, go to TripAdvisor, call my friends, do this presentation for my wife to say which one's better. And so it was just really interesting to watch sort of this interaction that I was having with Google in the search engine now. And I never really noticed it as much because it sort of came up on us. But it's going to impact all of us and every investment that you make, every company that is getting started. So whether you're a founder, you got to be aware of it. If you're an investor, you got to be aware of it because this is going to impact revenue models. So the question that I want to ask is this really leveling the playing field? Is this creating an opportunity that small businesses can now compete with the big businesses? Or is it going to create new barriers for people to try to figure out how to make this thing happen? And this article is out there. It's interesting because I was putting this thing together. This just got published May 14th, literally 3-4 days ago. And so the question is, are we ready? And what do we do? But before I give you that, let me give you some context, right? Because we all raised our hands. We all said, search, right? I use Google. Of course I do. But think about this. 56% of the website traffic is organic search. Organic search is what I did. I didn't come through an ad, I didn't come through Gmail, I didn't come through YouTube. I literally just typed snorkeling. 56% is just plain search, either I'm bored or I'm just have too much time in my hands. But 92% of the search engine market share is owned by Google. Google is looking for the next billion-dollar opportunity. And don't kid yourselves, they're going to try to monetize this. 66%, and by the way, the links are at the bottom. I can share this with you, so I'm not just giving you some fake news, fake numbers to make my presentation sexier. These are real. 66% of the web traffic comes through referrals. So that means you clicked on Google. Google is able to track down that you bought something from the other company. And we've already spent this far over $130 billion in ad. So this is the problem. So when you think about marketers, I think about what used to happen. Most of the people would go and say, I'm going to optimize my website. Because if I was buying a car and I'm looking for an SUV midsize, $30,000 to $50,000, I will get the links of Hyundai, Volkswagen, and all the different links. I can go to the link of that website, check out the cars. Maybe I go to Edmunds.com, go to Kelley Blue Book, do comparisons, look at prices, features, sizes, all these different things. Well, guess what? That's not what's happening anymore. Now, Google's going to give you the opportunity to interact with them. And so what's going to happen is the value of content is going to change a bit, but it's going to also be very different. So Google searches and AI are being measured and being looked at as their citations. So you'll start seeing nowadays when you see results, they'll start giving you like where they got the answer. Because the models, they can't just come up with an answer based on bias. They can't come up with, they have to rely on true source and true data. And so they're being asked, and they're going to be monitored, and I'm sure the government's going to get involved to provide and ensure that the AI models they're giving you, they are giving you real data. And so citations are going to be in your ranking. Before, you would pay more money to make sure you got to the top of the list when it came to the ranking. Things are different. The art of the winning, this is super crazy. I'm advising software companies today because they're trying to figure out how to win deals. What their RFP, who knows what an RFP is? It's a request for a proposal, RFQ, request for a quote. Well, guess what? Before, what would you do? What would a software company do? Or anybody do? Gather requirements, talk to your sponsors, try to figure out what is it that you need, what security layers, is it global, does it have language, does it have APIs, integrations, come up with this 40-page document that I always thought they never read after we filled it. But it became sort of what you would answer and give back to them. Now, procurement's using AI to create RFPs and RFQs. And they're basing their RFP and RFQ potentially on your competitor. So now you're competing against somebody that actually has the answers to the test. They're not even looking at requirements anymore. They're actually looking at your competitor and see, this is what the requirement, because the way they did it, the way they did their website, the way they cited their sites, it's actually creating an RFP and RFQ. So now you're competing, and you're already behind the ballpark. The buying journey, I explained to you how I go to buy a snorkeling trip. It's not guiding me through that process. And another one that is really important, we always look at metrics. I'm very data-driven, so I always think of metrics. I always think of trends. Things are like, if you think about it from a sales perspective, you think about how many deals are coming in through the website? How many coming through a digital channel? What's our conversion rate? Before you were thinking, 30% of my revenue is coming from, Google searches. If I'm a air conditioning and heating, if I'm a restaurant, if I'm a car cleaning service, you're getting all that information through social media, or maybe your leads. Well, guess what? Those leads are not going to come anymore because Google's going to contain them. The AI search is going to contain them before they give them to you. And so what do you need to adjust? So I don't want to paint a picture of like the world's coming to an end, so please panic. I'll give you guys some recommendations for you guys to think and consider. But this is big. It's big when you think as an investor, the things that we always ask, right? What's your revenue model? What's your cost structure? How much are you spending every month? Well, guess what? Now you're going to have to question how much of your revenue is coming through a channel, through searches, especially for the smaller companies, the SMB companies. For me, it's impacting my customer success and my customer experience as I advise companies. Because a lot of our customers are coming online. And they're like, I need to get support tickets. I need to fix whatever problem I'm having. They may not even get to our own website to give them the experience that they want. They may just get their information from someone else around how to solve a problem, whether it's right or wrong. I'm still impacted by it. So I don't want to scare you, but I do think that AI has an incredible opportunity. I think the opportunity, when you think about things that were invented in the past that we're all panicking, my wife's a teacher. So I was sharing this with her, and I told her, I said, how did you feel when the calculator came out in 1692? She says, well, the moment phones came out and kids were using calculators on their phones, she says, because we used to talk about how it was the death of math. And so innovation is coming. You just have to embrace it. There's no turning back. There's no like, oh, let's undo this. It's not. It's there. And so the pieces that I kind of want to leave you with is create an AI-driven culture. Humans are not going away. So let's figure out how do we make humans make better decisions, be more effective, work smarter than harder. Create an A-powered business, right? And that means that figure out ways to include AI in every component, every function that you make, whether it's customer experience, operations, finance, HR. You never think of HR using AI. Well, guess what? It's the #1 thing. I told my son, I go learn as much AI as you can because you're going to be super valuable in the HR space for CHROs, and suddenly all the CHROs want to talk to him because he's been doing some AI stuff. And lastly is think about AI as a service. A lot of companies are trying to figure out how to monetize, how to create subscriptions, sort of the 24-hour fitness model. Figure out ways that you can create that. And I do think AI has an important component and power to do that. So thank you. I don't know if you guys want to have any questions before I go. I don't know how I am in time, so you have 2 minutes, okay? Does anybody have a question?
I have a question, and thank you, Kyle. That was awesome and very insightful. One of the things I've been reading, and by no means I'm close to being an expert on this, is how AI is mostly being kind of the use cases are happening mostly at the enterprise level at the moment. So there's not a lot like the traditional small business economy or moms and pops. I saw this Amazon Q new rollout. I was curious to get your opinion on that because for me, one of the things that I think about a lot as a policy background person is, I don't know what's the data. I think 3 out of 5 small businesses, don't make it in the first 5 years. It's a very high fail rate. And a lot of that is because decision making is done poorly. They sign a 5-year lease instead of a 1-year lease. They rehire, their pricing is bad enough. With AI, you can have a small business owner in Spanish say, this is my current situation, and maybe you have a completely mentored, customized approach to optimize how you make decisions in the field. How are you seeing AI being deployed? So 2 questions. What's your opinion on Amazon Q? And because I think they're doing something pretty special there. And then the other is, how do you see these use cases starting to pop up in sort of for smaller companies, smaller firms?
So on the that's how I feel. I'm not too familiar with the Amazon piece of it. I've seen it, and I've seen some of the startups that I've been working with starting to use it. So I think the jury's still out on how that's going to solve. I think on AI, look, large companies, you think just because they have money, or they have the funds and the resources, they're struggling themselves because they're dealing with legacy systems, legacy processes, and data.
Sorry about that.
Where was I? Set up something you're old, you forgot. So I think large companies struggle as much as anybody else, right? Just because they have resources, they have money, or they have systems, they struggle. I actually think that the smaller startups, if they have the right advisory, if they have the right mindset, they can actually leverage AI because they're nimble. You can be scrappy with it. You can make decisions quickly. A lot of large companies don't know. I mean, just like the example that I gave, is CEO comes in and make it happen, 90 days. This has been going on for 6 months, and they haven't done anything yet. And we're barely in this infancy of putting out together a roadmap around how to get there, where a startup can actually do it. So I think depending on the industry you're in, it's kind of figuring out the very small steps that they can take to kind of get started. I think the mindset and the culture, as I mentioned, is like the culture of leveraging AI rather than being scared of it. It's super, super important. But yeah, it's still uncharted territory with a lot of companies on how they're leveraging it.
This investor likened the advent of AI, or the broader use of AI, to Gutenberg and the printing press, and said this is going to make it go a quantum leap ahead as far as how information is used and circulated. I was just wondering if you had any reactions to that analogy.
It's going to be really scary, because if you think about what I said, which is there's so much data accessible today, so suddenly people are going to make decisions on buying your product, your service, based on a Yelp review, potentially, right? The thing that I think I'm also seeing an impact is that, like, there's this company out there that told me, like, look, 10% of our business comes from the SMB space. So anybody that has less than 50 employees, I just don't have the resources to spend time on them. I'm going to focus on everything above this. On paper, sounds great. But guess what? That one company that has 3 employees went on LinkedIn, threw the company under the bus, mentioned the CEO, mentioned some of their colleagues, mentioned a bunch of things. Other people jumped in, and then big companies, Fortune 500 companies, jumped in and said, how can you be treating a small company like that? And suddenly the whole world came to, like, everybody's now jumping, trying to figure it out. So data is going to be king. We are going to be dealing with a lot of fake news and sort of fake sites. It's going to have a huge impact. So that's probably the scary part around how do you actually manage data. Your whole marketing team, your whole organization is going to be thinking about how they're monitoring data, feedback from customers. There's a huge social media marketing aspect of it, where people are posting things on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. There's so many different tools. So the world has changed, and it's putting some companies at risk, like a Yelp, where AI, Google, you can actually do all your restaurant information just directly within the search. And so it's impacting, and there's obviously a bunch of things that we don't know yet around what's going to happen.
Sorry, we're
going to cut me off. Okay.
Agenda.
Sorry, guys.
Give me.